Hello, everyone. Welcome to Blue Devil Beat. I'm your host, Ranjan Jindal, here joined by my co-host, Caleb Dudley. Caleb, how are you, man?
I'm good. Good to be back for the holiday season.
Yeah, it's almost Thanksgiving. And joining Caleb and I is Dom Fenolio for the second week in a row. Dom, welcome to Blue Devil Beat.
Always a pleasure. Love being here.
Yeah, we love having you as well. So today, sorry, we're recording a little bit later than normal, but we're going to talk a lot about Duke basketball and football. Dom and Caleb are here because they both went up to New York to cover Duke basketball's win against Kansas up in Madison Square Garden. So we're going to first talk about that. Then we're going to preview Duke basketball's contest against Arkansas next week on Thanksgiving Day in Chicago. Caleb will be there for that. And then we're going to switch over to some football talk. Obviously, Duke football had a very devastating loss to Virginia at home last weekend, so we'll recap that. And then we're going to be joined by Matthew Maynard of the Daily Tar Heel to preview a Victory Bell challenge against Duke and UNC rivalry game tomorrow. We're recording on Friday. That will be Saturday at 3:30. So fun episode ahead. But first, this podcast is brought to you by Duke Stores. Support your favorite Duke team. Duke Stores is home to the only collection of merchandise brought to you straight from Duke University. Go to shop.duke.edu for all of your Duke merch. All right, let's recap this Kansas game, guys. Well, first of all, how was New York? Tell us about the trip.
It was a great time. It was a very short trip.
Yeah.
Our flight there got delayed a little bit, so we landed, went straight to the hotel, got dressed, went straight to the stadium, got done with the stadium about 12, went back home, went to sleep, woke up, came back home. It was very station to station,
That's true.
but it was a good time.
But good seats in Madison Square Garden.
Wonderful seat.
Yep.
Yeah, couldn't get any better. We were sitting front row, press row, and the guy who carries around the wooden ward, he's like, you guys mind if I put this here for a minute? And we're like, oh, yeah, okay. So we sat next to the wooden ward for like 20 minutes, which was pretty cool.
Did you touch it?
I did.
Yeah. Well, Dom's going to be a future winner of the Wooden Award here. And I'm just
Is that
kidding.
good add?
I don't know. You got extra eligibility.
Take my COVID year.
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about basketball. So first half, at least for the first half of the first quarter, if you will, Kansas led, but then Duke kind of took control and led for the rest of the game and won handily 78-66. Caleb, I'll start with you. Overall takeaways from a solid win from the Blue Devils up in New York.
Yeah, I thought, like you mentioned, I thought Kansas kind of punched Duke in the mouth to start. I thought Duke did a good job of responding. Obviously, the main storyline was the Jayhawks were down Darren Peterson, who, maybe is the best player in the country, best freshman in the country. So without him, they're pretty shorthanded. I thought, some of the supporting cast stepped up. Kansas needed a lot more from the rest of its rotation. I think Don mentioned at one point they had made like 4 shots outside of Melvin Council, Trey White, and Floyd Badunga. So I thought Duke did well to bounce back. Thought they settled in a lot more, got to the rim, got downhill, ended up getting Kansas in some good foul trouble. So it was a good win for Duke. I wrote about it in my sidebar. I thought kind of the whole team, Duke just has a team full of connective pieces that serves them really well, especially when a guy like Cam Boozer struggled to score at the rim like he did on Tuesday a little bit. He was 7 for 17. So just to have guys that can kind of do everything and just kind of pick up the slack wherever needed is really big. Thought Caden Boozer in that department was really, really good on Tuesday. I think he led the team with a plus 17 plus minus without even scoring in the first half. So really good game from him.
Yeah, Caden was fantastic. He hit a 3 there and had a couple nice floaters. I think we mentioned that last game. A few assists as well, so I thought he was big. Dom, what about takeaways for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start defensively. Like Caleb said, there was really just 3 guys who did the bulk of the work for Kansas. And I thought they all did a really good job and were quite impressive and great athletes more than anything else. You just saw Floyd Badunga was just jumping out of the gym. He had one point, I think, at the start of the second half where it looked like the possession was over. He just stepped around and like dunked like a reverse dunk on the
Oh, yeah.
It was ridiculous. And Melvin Council Jr. was very fast, like able to get downhill in a way that very few people have over the last 3 years under John Shire. With that being said, I think Duke's defense held up well. I think after the game, Bill Self said that he kind of wanted to turn it into a rock fight, turn it into a messy game because he knew without Darren Peterson, the talent gap was just kind of too much for Kansas to overcome. And I thought Kansas did a really good job of that, and Duke did a good job, especially I think the last 5 minutes of the game. Well, I think after that timeout, right before Isaiah Evans hit the 3, I don't think Kansas scored after that. I could be wrong. If they did, it might have been 1.
No, they didn't have a field goal for like the last 5 minutes, I think.
Yeah, which is something that Duke has really, really been good at in a lot of their wins. And then offensively, one thing I really wanted to shout out was Isaiah Evans' ability to drive. I think he's becoming so much more comfortable and so much more aggressive. He had one play where he like completely got his man fooled on a pump fake. And he did that in the first half and then followed it up with how he made 3 threes in the game as well. Like it just opens up so many other things for him. And I think, as Dame Sarr and Nick Hemenia get more confident, as Duke hopes to develop them into slashers as well. I think Isaiah Evans, if he can come along as a threat at the rim, that will really raise the ceiling for Duke.
Yeah, I mean, with how much he shoots in his green light, any pump fake on him is gonna certainly work.
Yeah.
A couple things you guys touched on him well, but to your first point, Dom, about closing out the game, I think Duke this year, it's obviously hard to compare to last year's team, but early in the season, you had a couple of losses where in the last 5 minutes or so against Kentucky and this Kansas team, Duke wasn't really able to close out that game. And this team just seems pretty comfortable in any type of game format. Even against Texas when we went, it got ugly there for a lot in the first half, but the team didn't really panic, kept its foot on the gas, kept playing well defensively. Even offensive struggles don't seem to affect the team's defensive performance, which I think is really good. And then also on the offensive end, I thought Pat Ngongba played pretty well as well. Getting to the line, capitalizing there, that'll be big for him. He has a nice stroke at the line. And then Caleb mentioned Caden Boozer too. So solid win for Duke against Kansas. I think this can be a recipe for success against quality teams. Obviously, Kansas didn't have their entire team there, but if you play defense like this, it seems to be tough to beat, I guess.
Yeah, I think to your point about like winning in any environment, I think Coach Shire obviously wants them. They're playing a ton of marquee games here the rest of the semester, and obviously that's on purpose. I mean, they have a lot of young guys, but Coach Shire obviously believes in them. And even if they lose a couple close games there, it's good. It's better than beating up on some mid-major team or some team that they can easily beat at home. One more thing to add, I think you mentioned Pat. I think having him, Cam, and Malik are just so good at facilitating the basketball. I wrote about that in my sidebar too. Like they just demand so much attention, especially Cam when he gets the ball. He was getting doubled and tripled all night, and he's just so good at passing out of a double into a wide open three or a cross court pass. He had the sweet outlet to Isaiah for a dunk.
Ooh,
so just to have 5 guys on the floor where they can all they're gonna make the right decision. It makes Duke that much more dangerous.
Yeah, just Malik when he passes too. He catches it at the top of the key and either throws it down for somebody cutting.
It's too much for me. Like sometimes I'm like, Malik, just calm down and throw a normal pass. But it's very good. Don't change. But I think you had one pass, maybe that was a turnover.
He took Dame's hands off.
Just what are you doing? Just throw it to him.
Yeah. No, I want to see him be aggressive offensively too. I know I've mentioned that probably ad nauseum on this podcast, but this year I think he has the chance to do that and the role to do that.
Yeah.
You're seeing him take more threes, not quite making them yet, but that'll be big for this offense.
Yeah, and I think in a lot of ways with what Caleb just said and what you mentioned, I think the offensive floor for this team is very high because when you have such an interior presence with Cameron Boozer, Patrick Gunba, add in Malik Brown to that, we've seen multiple times now where the three does not fall for long periods of time for the Blue Devils, and they're still able to generate points. And the number one way they've been able to do that is to get to the free throw line because Kansas is going to be one of the 5 most athletic teams, maybe one in the country. And Duke, shot 26 free throws compared to 14 for Kansas. If you do that and shoot better than, I think they shot 65% from the free throw line, which isn't a very good number. If you can shoot 80% or better, then it's going to be really hard to beat a team like Duke. And I think that is what, gives me the most promise for them offensively is that they can have a terrible shooting night. They can shoot, let's see, what did they shoot from 3? 27% from 3 and 65% from the free throw line and 46% from the field. And they won in the second half was hardly in question, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah.
Got to get rid of those Spalding basketballs, man.
Yeah.
Two big games, 2 3-pointer percentages under 30. Spalding.
Well, just wait. If they're Spalding in the NCAA tournament, John Shire will have prepared them.
True.
Wait, how do they decide?
It's just like whoever runs the event.
I'm an Evo guy, Wilson Evo.
Yeah, I agree.
Back in high school.
I actually like the Spalding balls, though. Maybe that's a hot take.
No, those aren't bad. Okay, well, good stuff there. So Duke's road does not get any easier. Well, this weekend there's a Brotherhood run with Niagara. Greg Paulus is coaching there, and then you go to Howard, or not going to Howard, welcoming Howard on Sunday. So those should be 2 wins for the Blue Devils, and then respectfully.
No, I hear you. I hear you.
Out of respect. And then trip to Chicago to take on Arkansas, 8 p.m. on Thanksgiving evening. Caleb will be there,
Yep.
spending your Thanksgiving in Chicago.
I will.
I have a few thoughts on Arkansas, but I don't know if you guys. I can start them too, but if you guys have any initial thoughts, and then I can go ahead.
Yeah. I think like a typical Coach Cal team, they're athletic.
Yeah.
They have a lot of good players. They're still relatively young, kind of like Duke, like Malik Thomas, Darius Acuff, both freshmen. DJ Wagner's, I guess, a junior now. Carter Knox, a sophomore. So they're a pretty young team. I think, similar. Coach Cal has always had a similar style to Duke in terms of that, roster construction wise. They've been pretty solid. I've watched them. I watched a good bit of that Michigan State game. I think Michigan State's really good, and we'll talk about that in a couple weeks. But
We will be there.
and they look really, really good when me and Dom were watching them against
Yeah, they
Kentucky. But I thought they played okay. Their offense is just, I think it's still getting there. It's not, the stats aren't great to start the year, like pretty mediocre, but I think they're definitely going to be a good test.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say throughout most of these early season games, the players that I'm watching the most are the 2 point guards, which I think we've talked a lot about, and Dame Sarr and Nick Menia, because I think, you see the draft boards, you see Dame Sarr up there in the lottery. It's undeniable, his like athleticism, his length, like all of the tools he has. And aside from that Army game where he really was confident against a lesser opponent, you haven't seen him put it together confidently. And I know that like it's going to get there eventually,
Right.
but I think the more promising signs you can see out of him is that's a great player to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I totally agree. You can see he's kind of thinking about it. Sometimes he overthinks a couple times. He's very, very young, but his ceiling is so high, so we just gotta get him there.
Yeah, he'll get there.
For Arkansas, I think a couple things. One, this is the most talented offensive team Duke has faced, obviously, this year. That's not saying too much yet, because without Peterson, I would say they're more
Right.
talented
Yeah.
offensively than Kansas. But Acuff is the best guard Duke has faced. So I'm curious with Caleb Foster and Caden Boozer when they are guarding him. I mean, he's averaging 18 a game. He can shoot, he can drive, he can get to the line. He's aggressive. How they play against him.
Yeah.
Malik Thomas is another guy who's just a freak of nature, just so talented, can score from everywhere. So Arkansas's got scores. I think what they struggled against Michigan State was with the physicality. They weren't able to match that. I think Michigan State got a bunch of offensive rebounds. So they're not particularly physical. I think Cameron Boozer is going to have a big game. But Arkansas can shoot really well, and they can score. So it's an interesting matchup for me. But Duke has to get some boards.
One thing that'll be interesting there is I've been surprised with how much Duke has switched Cam Boozer and Patrick Gunba onto point guards.
Yeah.
Because, when you had Cooper Flagg at the 4 last year, I think that was different. And Cam Boozer is also a very good athlete, but I think laterally he's a little bit slower. And especially Gunba. Gunba's a wonderful center, but, also laterally not the fastest player.
Yeah.
But I think against Kansas, for almost the entire game, they were switching 1 through 5.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that means maybe Malik Brown will play more. Maybe you're going to try to double out of a ball screen more to get the ball out of his hands or, take away a driving lane. But I think that's going to be a really interesting thing to watch when you brought up their talent in the backcourt.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think when Caden's played, a couple of his weaknesses have been on defense. He's gotten blown by a couple times, and he'll get better. Acuff's also a freshman, so I'm watching that. And then on defense, Malik is obviously so talented, but sometimes his talent can overcome him at times, and he can reach, and foul. And so you can't foul this team because they do like to get to the line. They're aggressive there. But Duke just has to out physical Arkansas down low, and I think then Duke can win. But honestly, Arkansas is such a, what do you call it? I guess a low floor, high ceiling team. I mean, you saw that over the past week with how
high variability.
Yeah, the Winthrop game, that was insane. And then you almost beat Michigan State in its own stadium. So it'll be exciting there. I don't know what the crowd will be like. How far is Arkansas?
I think it'll be a pro Duke crowd.
Crowd?
If they try to pick a fight with Duke like they did against Winthrop, I don't think Arkansas can win against Duke. Duke's got a lot of big guys.
Jack Scott coming off the bench.
Yeah, I mean, they got a lot of big guys. That game was crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think Arkansas. It's true. I guess they'll start maybe Ewan again because he's kind of their other center, even though they kind of go with the small ball with Brazil at the 5 a lot. But against Duke, you really can't do that. So I'm interested to see kind of how Coach Cal and Coach Shire, the chess match they have there on Thursday.
And Boozer on offense has not played great in the big games yet. So I think this could be one where he gets going. But he'll get second and third chances even if he misses. I think.
Yeah. He'll get his double-double.
Yeah, and Shire's done a good job putting the supporting cast around him in positions to succeed. All right, anything else about Duke basketball? It's going to be a fun 2 weeks coming up.
Oh, yeah.
It's going
to after this Brotherhood run, we got It's Arkansas, Florida, Michigan State, 3 in a row.
Sheesh.
Ben Lipscomb.
Yes,
Yep.
Ben Lipscomb.
A-Sun.
Don't yeah.
The
I
pride of the
Not sleeping
A-Sun.
Lipscomb's very good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I read the stat today. Like 11 of the last 12 champs have gone undefeated through Thanksgiving. So Duke beating Arkansas will be a good sign for them going forward.
All right, let's.
Let's pump the brakes. When is Texas Tech? That's like the 20th.
20th, December
Yeah.
20th.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't mean, yeah, that one too.
All right. Well, good stuff, guys. Dom, thank you again.
Yeah.
Killed
Thanks
it.
for having me. Love it.
We will be back to preview some football with Matthew Maynard of the Daily Tar Heel. Welcome back to Blue Devil Beat. We're super excited to be joined by Matthew Maynard. He's the sports editor at the Daily Tar Heel. Matthew, welcome back to Blue Devil Beat, man. How are you?
How are you guys? Thanks for having me back. I think I was on last year for the Duke UNC football game.
Yeah,
So,
we're part two. We're
Yep.
back. All right, let's start off with recapping North Carolina's season so far. Obviously, the excitement around Bill Belichick did not get off to a great start, but winning 2 of the last 3, just kind of give us the story of the season for North Carolina so far.
Yeah, well, I was at the TCU game as a fan, just
Yeah.
with some friends, and that first opening drive, the whole day really, and then was great. Really, a lot of excitement in Chapel Hill. The first opening drive, Carolina scores a touchdown, loudest I've ever heard Kenan Stadium, one of the loudest college atmospheres I've personally been in. And then everybody saw what happened the rest of the game. It kind of went that way. Covered the Charlotte game. Wow, that was such a boring game. 20-3, but the offense looked terrible. And that's pretty much been the story of the season. The offense has really struggled. Defense has made improvements throughout the year. They've looked pretty good, and the offense can't really necessarily say the same thing. But like you said, 1, 2 out of the last 3, Syracuse and Stanford, not 2 ACC powerhouses right now.
A win's a win, man.
A win's a win. Think about the Clemson game and the 28 points Clemson
Yeah.
put up in Chapel Hill in the first quarter. And then, yeah, the UVA game was close. Had a chance to tie it in overtime, decided to go for the win. I thought that was probably the right call. You're, not the favorite to win that game. You're playing at home. Offense has been shaky at best all season. You might never get in that position again to win that game against a top 20 team in UVA. And then last week at Wake Forest was just another offensive failure. I mean, they only kicked 4 field goals, made 4 field goals, kicked 6, had 2 blocked, and then
Jeez.
just really couldn't find any rhythm against Wake.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up on that Wake game for a couple of reasons. One, you alluded to it there. I mean, seemed like the offense moved the ball a decent amount, but just could not finish in red zones or on drives. And then defensively, it seems like Wake Forest was able to run the ball and pass the ball. Ashford had 200 yards and a touchdown, and then Damon Claiborne, obviously he's talented, got 100 yards on the ground. Talk about both sides of the coin there for North Carolina, both sides of the ball against Wake Forest.
Yeah, I'll start with the offense first. I was at that game. I covered it. I wrote about the offense and their struggles, and they moved the ball at times. They were helped a lot by field position.
Yeah.
Force put them in, but once they got anywhere near the red zone, I mean, it just all fell apart. I think it was a 2nd and 8 that Freddie Kitchens called a pass out wide, swung out wide to Jordan Shipp, and let Jordan throw the ball and try and find Jake Johnson. And Jordan talked about it in the post-game presser, and he said that, yeah, it's a play we've been working on for a couple weeks. And so if that's your play on 2nd and 8, like outside the Wake Forest red zone, I don't really know what's going well for the offense. But yeah, I mean, they got within field goal range a lot, set some stuff up, scored 6 first half points, which is better than the 3 the previous week against Stanford. And then defensively, it looked like they got off to a pretty good start. Gavin Gibson forced a fumble around the Wake 50-yard line, or Wake 48 was about.
Mm-hmm.
And they just couldn't come up with the ball. And Wake returned it 50 yards, grabbed the loose ball, took it 50 yards to the end zone. That was the opening drive for Wake. And start the second half, Wake Forest, same wide receiver, blanking on his name, but they did a flea flicker. He ran a slant right across the middle. Slant, caught the ball about in midfield, and took it 70 yards for a touchdown. And that was essentially that. And then obviously the interesting decision from Bill Belichick at the end of the game to call a timeout. Um, I You're down 21-12 on Wake's got it at the UNC goal line. I mean, they're 2 yards out from scoring another touchdown. Belichick calls a timeout, and you know, I don't think Jake Dickert did the wrong thing. I think if the opposing team's going to call a timeout, you try and score.
Yeah.
I think Bill would probably do the same thing, but it looked like they were going to knee it out, and that was just some questionable coaching decisions. But defensively, they had a lot of lapses against Wake Forest. Obviously, they let Wake Forest move the ball pretty much however they wanted to. Um, I just always go back to that ending, like, yeah, 28-12, but probably should have been 21-12, and maybe that looks a little bit better. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it does. It would one possession game. Well, not quite.
Yeah.
Not quite.
Close.
Matthew,
Close.
what is it like? I forgot to ask you this at the beginning, but just covering this team with Bill Belichick as the head coach, obviously there's a lot of narratives and storylines about it, but I'm just curious of the press conference environments, the media frenzy. I can't even imagine what that's like.
Yeah, I mean, starting back to last year when I was assistant sports editor here, it was insane. I couldn't really believe that UNC was thinking about even hiring him.
Yeah.
Then they did. Then the media frenzy, and then the offseason was really quiet up until fall practice. Obviously, the Jordan Hudson stuff was all coming out, and everybody was trying to find as much as they could on that, which I understand. It's definitely a storyline, and when you're not playing football games, people want to talk about something. Um, and then in the fall camp, he was actually really good. Obviously, media was there a lot more packed than any Mac Brown press conference probably ever was. Um, and then he would give good answers. He wouldn't necessarily talk about players themselves. He'd talk about position groups. Even if you asked, like, how's Gio doing? He'd talk about the quarterback room as a whole. And then we got into the season and they started losing games. And those post game press conferences, I think back to the one at Cal. I traveled out to Cal to cover that game.
Oof.
Nice.
And that was one of the worst press conferences that I've ever experienced. Very short, very quick. Obviously, UNC fumbled at the goal line right before they were about to score to go ahead, and it was terrible. And one Cal reporter asked him why he came back to college or why he came back to coach and come to college football. And his response was, "Yeah, I've answered that about 70 times. We can send you a transcript." And it's like,
Dang.
obviously not in the mood. And that was at the time the Saudi Arabia stuff was coming out about Michael Lombardi taking a trip out there. It's been hectic, and having to put out statements mid-season saying you're committed to the program, and a joint statement with the athletic director, and then saying I'm not looking at the New York Giants job. It's just, and then this past week, speeding tickets for about like 20% of the football team, I think is what it was from WRAL. It's just, it seems to be a new thing every week, and it's a lot to keep up with. And like I said earlier, it's entertaining if that's the type of entertainment you're going for. But things quieted down when they started to win.
Yeah.
But when they're not winning, things flare back up. And so that's been the most interesting part, I think.
Fascinating.
Yeah, I feel for you. It sounds like they're keeping you pretty busy over there. Back to on the field. You talked about the defense has made some strides since the start of the year. Kind of, are there some players or maybe position groups you think have really improved on that front to keep UNC in some of these games?
Yeah, I would say the defensive line. Tyler Thompson's been really a standout over the past couple weeks. I think the defensive line at the beginning of the year was really struggling to generate any sort of pressure on the quarterback. And Bryce Yates transferred from UConn, ended up having to medically retire due to concussion. So he was a major factor that people thought was going to come in and really help the defensive line, especially with the loss of Bo Atkinson, who transferred to Ohio State. But Corey House has looked good. Andrew Simpson has looked really good in the linebacker room. I think a major loss is Thad Dixon. He went out probably a month ago at this point and hasn't come back. And I'm not sure he's going to play the rest of the year at cornerback, but they've all made strides and they've looked more cohesive as a unit, I would say. But I think the main thing is the defensive line.
Mm.
and I want to say it was against Virginia. They had 9 sacks or something like that. Might be off by a game there, but yeah, I mean, generating pressure on the opposing quarterback has allowed for them to actually stay in games, especially when the offense isn't producing. So I would say that's been the biggest tangible improvement. The linebackers were good pretty much from the start. You kind of knew what you were going to get in Kamori House transferring from Washington, and Andrew Simpson joining. Those guys have been the two mainstays. Gavin Gibson's really stepped up. Will Hardy, he's not your star
Hmm.
defensive back slash safety, but he's been at Carolina. He knows what the program's like. Obviously, with Bill, it's different, but he's a mainstay leader that has stayed there, and he's the punt returner too. But that's another whole nother topic.
Going to the offensive side, Gio Lopez, quarterback transfer from South Alabama, who had, I guess, some hype and promise coming in.
Yeah.
He's a bigger quarterback. He has a nice arm, but consistency has not been there for him, and at least production-wise on offense. Give us the scout of Gio Lopez. What are some strengths and weaknesses of him, and why do you think the offense maybe hasn't been able to produce to the level that he did last year at South Alabama?
Yeah, you're totally right. He came in with, I think a lot of people here had pretty high expectations that,
Yeah.
you're bringing in a dual threat quarterback that looked good at South Alabama. I think there's a lot of problems. Obviously, at the beginning of the year, he got hurt. He got hurt
Yeah.
against TCU. Um, he got hurt in the UCF game as well. And Max Johnson came in for both of those. But there's been a lot of consistency issues. He's really struggled with reads. I think it's the biggest thing. He doesn't really get off his first read, or he makes a read a little bit too late. I know at the Wake Forest game, he had a couple questionable throws. He had one at Cal that was really questionable. And the one that really sticks out to me against Wake was he had a receiver, I think it was Kobe Pace, were wide open pretty much in the back of the end zone. And he probably had him for 2 or 3 seconds, and he let him straight out of bounds.
Yeah.
And the offense, I don't think is designed for him. He's not a. They haven't really utilized his ground game as much as I kind of expected heading into the season.
Right.
It's a lot of swing passes out wide, trying to get the running backs involved, maybe wide receiver out on the edge to get something. Um, and another issue is he's short. Um, I I'm not a tall guy. You guys know me, and I stand next to Gio Lopez, and I'm not like staring up.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. That's funny.
it's not anything that you would expect from a power force starting quarterback.
True. Yeah.
I do think Freddie Kitchens has a lot to do with it in the play calls that they run. Obviously, he has an arm. He's shown it at times. I think back to the UNC Charlotte game, first drive of the game, he had a 53-yard touchdown pass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he aired it out to Chris Culver. So the potential's there. It just hasn't worked. And I think at this point in the season, it's way too late. It's not going to work. And a change probably should have happened a while ago. I know they started Max Johnson earlier in the year for a game, Clemson game. We saw how that turned out. But
That's
I wouldn't
unfair.
Yeah.
somebody like Bryce Baker.
Yeah.
Maybe giving him a shot. You're not going to burn his red shirt anymore. You're Carolina. If you're lucky, you're looking at 3 games left in the season, but at least 2. So you might as well see what you have for next year, because I don't think Gio will be around next year.
Yeah. Short quarterbacks, man. Shout out Bryce Young last week, 450. If you had to pick someone on North Carolina that you think is an X factor for this game, someone that needs to have a big game for the Tar Heels to win, who would that be?
I'm torn either between Jordan Shipp and Damon June. Running back wise, Bill has rotated a lot.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't really found any consistency that he's enjoyed. I'd go Jordan Shipp. I think Shipp's not, going to blister you with pace, but he's a good secure ball receiver. He's got a chance to catch pretty much everything that comes his way. So I would go, yeah, I'd lean towards Jordan Shipp, and then defensively, probably Tyler Thompson.
Yeah.
to be honest. See if he can generate pressure against Duke's offensive line and get to Mensa and, disrupt the offense a little bit.
And do you have a prediction for this game Saturday? What do you think? Maybe a score pick. I hate to put you on the spot, but score pick and keys for North Carolina to keep this close or even maybe win.
Yeah. Score prediction, gosh. Well, it's not going to be in favor of Carolina. I know that.
Okay.
I maybe say 24-10, maybe 9 more recently because all they do is kick field goals. Maybe go 24-9 Duke. I think keys to the game are finding some sort of consistency in the run game.
Yeah.
Whether that's with Benjamin Hall, transfer from Michigan, won a national title at Michigan, and hasn't really. He's had his flashes. Damon June's really been kind of the standout. Obviously, they lost Caleb Hood to retirement earlier in the year. Finding consistency on the run game and defensively, just going back to the identity pre-Wake Forest, I would say. I mean, what you had in the game against Stanford and even Virginia. I know Virginia has struggled offensively throughout the year, although they kind of put up 34 points against Duke last week. But
Yeah.
but finding the same sort of consistency they had against Cal and against Stanford and against Syracuse to kind of reestablish their identity.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I would be remiss if I did not mention the Daily Tar Heel and Chronicle annual football game, flag football game that occurred a few days ago.
You have to.
It was a high-scoring affair, 49-42. The Chronicle came out on top. Now, here's the thing, though, Matthew. The stats are in your favor. 2 years ago when we played this game, the Chronicle won, and then North Carolina won the football game.
True.
Last year, the Daily Tar Heel came out on top in a rain-soaked affair, and Duke won that game. So this year, the Chronicle wins. So does that mean North Carolina's going to win this game?
Right. And I will mention, every game has been close while I've been in school between Duke and North Carolina for football. Last year was, 21-20?
Yeah.
With Star Thomas. The year before that was, double overtime with Grayson Loftus?
47-45.
So,
yeah.
I mean, it's gonna be, I think it's going to be a close game, personally.
I will say 2 years ago, I guess I was a sophomore. We played you guys in Durham.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we lost that game, I think, in like double overtime.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
Just touchdowns.
And then Carolina won that game.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like every time
There's
it's
something to it.
the opposite team.
Yeah.
Doesn't that happen in basketball too?
Yeah, basketball's the same way. So we've got a real trend here. We'll see if it bucks tomorrow.
That's awesome. Well, Matthew, thank you so much for joining us. Before you go, tell everyone where they can find you, find the Daily Tar Heel, all that good stuff.
Yeah, you can find us at dailytarheel.com. I'm under the sports section. You can also just search up Matthew Maynard Daily Tar Heel. But anything on the sports section, we've got a lot of coverage coming up over the next couple of weeks, as I'm sure you guys do too. And also DTH Sports on Twitter.
Awesome. Well, they do great stuff. Keep up with their work. Matthew, thank you so much for joining us. Great time as always, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. That was so fun. Matthew was great. Yeah, it's going to be, like you said, the past 3 games have been close, so you think it's going to be close again. Expand on that, my friend.
I do. I mean, it's really like movable object versus stoppable force. I mean, Matthew said they haven't been able to get anything going on offense, but I mean, if it's on defense, you got to get something going against. It's Duke at this point. So yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, I think Lopez has definitely been. I thought he'd be better too. Really, I really did. He was a late addition, which maybe played a part in it. But I really thought he'd be better. And outside of him, I mean, Damon June, he mentioned playing against him in high school. That kid is a beast. He's a big dude. He's a big running back, runs strong. But yeah, I think it'd be hard. It's hard to pick North Carolina this season. It's hard to pick Duke in this season at this point too. But I think Duke really needs this one for bowl eligibility and just for a little bit of pride at this rate. So I'll take Duke. I think Matthew's not too far off. I'll go a little bit higher scoring. He said field goals only, so I'll go 15-28.
Whoever has a North Carolina's field goal kicker in fantasy is lovely.
I know. I looked at it. He hasn't missed a PAT all year, and then he said he's missed 4 field goals, but Matthew said 2 were blocked last week. So pretty good kicker. They had Burnett before, who was really good too. So they've always had good kicker.
Yeah, this game the line's like 6.5, I want to say, but it's just I don't even know how to pick this game because it's so mental. Like, what is Duke? Where's Duke's mentality right now? Last week you were like, there's a good chance Duke wins the ACC or makes the ACC championship. At least
Yeah.
that was my perspective. And now that's completely crashed down. Obviously, not totally out of it, but it's very unlikely at this point. I think the victory bell still means something.
Yeah, absolutely.
And after last year's game, the way that ended, and I think both teams will really want to win. I think Manny's going to want to win for his sake too against Belichick. So I don't know, 31-17,
Yeah.
31-13. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
I think North Carolina's defense has played better, but just not against quality offenses yet. And
Definitely.
even what happened against Virginia, I think Duke's offense is still quality. I've been dead wrong in the past 2 games of Duke football, so maybe I'm wrong again, but I see Duke winning this fairly comfortably.
Yeah, I mean, you got to, zooming out a little bit, making a bowl game for this program and winning the championship still means a lot.
True.
I mean, before we got to school, going to 4 bowl games in a row would have happened once before under Coach Cudd, and so, I mean, you gotta win one of these next 2 games. This is obviously the easier one.
Mm-hmm.
You just gotta have it. I mean, Manny, obviously, expectations were high this year. You got a lot of guys who are still, have a lot of pride for this program, playing for draft stock. So I mean, you gotta have it. I think they'll come out with a little bit of fire, hopefully.
Yeah, Demon June is a very talented. You were mentioning him, Demon June.
Demon
June.
He's a beast. Jacksonville High School.
You played against. Did you tackle him?
A couple times. They ran triple option only. So he got the ball a lot.
Yeah.
I think he had 500 yards one year against my high school after I graduated. He's a beast. Freshman. I'm sure he'll definitely be a featured back for North Carolina for years to come.
After Caleb graduated, key point. Caleb was the key defensive
exactly.
stopper.
Yeah, we beat them on homecoming, but yeah.
Wow. Yeah, no, because I was watching that Syracuse game, and maybe my perspective is jaded, but he was absolutely a monster.
Yeah, he's a beast.
He was just cooking. Anyway, all right, well, so that should be fun. Read Caleb's coverage and Abby's coverage on the Chronicles website tomorrow.
Yep.
And that should 1 game left of the football season, man,
I
or
know.
regular season, which is crazy.
I've got a stretch coming up here. MSG, North Carolina, Chicago, Wake, Florida, Michigan State. The rest of my semester is
wow.
Yeah. So
Caleb Dudley will rule the Chronicle page.
Keep up with me on the website because I went from dormant to fully active here down the stretch.
Okay, well, you're going to stay active right now because you're going to run through the list of fall sports that are in postseason play for Duke.
Yep. We'll start with one that's not in postseason play yet. We'll start with women's basketball. They, since we've recorded last, I think have lost twice more.
Yeah.
Once in the ballroom fight with Jordan Wood in West Virginia. They lost that one to 5 players. Then yesterday, we're recording this on Friday, so Thursday, down at South Florida, 2 years in a row losing to the Bulls, the pride of the American. Emily Skinner out again with injury. Duke's really missing her, I think, at this rate. It's nice to have Ariana Roberson back, but just hasn't been enough. This week they've got South Carolina, Texas, and then Texas/UCLA. Wouldn't be shocked if Duke, came back from break 3-5, which is pretty bad for a team that was supposed to win the conference coming into the season. Going into postseason though, field hockey, another year of getting knocked out by North Carolina.
It was close, man.
It was another close one. It always is, but just another year falling short for Pam Bussin's crew. So they're out. Women's soccer going into the 3rd round here. Another round at home. Beat UCF on I want to say Thursday. Beat them yesterday, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then are playing Kansas on Sunday at home. Then men's soccer started their tournament. First round they beat FDU, classic sleeper team. And then now they're playing at number 3 Princeton, so that'll be a tough one. That's also on Sunday. And then cross country, they had regionals last time we recorded. Now they have national championships. Duke has 1 runner participating, Stephanie Moss. Shout out her. She was 9th, I want to say, at regionals, so she'll run at the championship. And I want to say it's at Mizzou this weekend.
Well, there you go. Exciting stuff for soccer on Sunday. And yeah, you're right about the women's basketball team. Just got to get some offense going. It's going to be tough. And then LSU coming back after that. So tough stretch ahead for Carol Lawson's
How
crew,
fun
but...
is ESPN definitely did Duke well though this year, I think. Florida and LSU for men's and women's will be really fun. A lot of big games coming up for Duke men's basketball and Duke women's basketball too.
Yep, so we'll be off next week because we will be home for Thanksgiving break. Yep. For all you listeners, I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving with friends, family, food, football.
Basketball. Yep.
Sports. Thank you guys so much for listening. Keep up with all of our stuff on the Chronicle website, and we will be back soon. For Caleb Dudley, I'm Ranjan Jindal. This has been Blue Devil Beat.